The Galactic King of the Vorn Dominion prided himself on owning what others feared. His throne world displayed relics of extinct civilizations, preserved in obsidian stasis fields or mounted in force-lock glass. He had caged solar flares, bottled black hole echoes, even framed the bones of the last Venari War matriarch. To him, fear was currency, and owning what others ran from defined his superiority. When his collectors brought reports of a human colony operating without protection, undefended and isolated in neutral space, he saw an opportunity to expand his collection. 3 human children, unattended and wandering near the outer fields of the colony, were acquired without resistance. The king had no interest in their identities. Children were pliable. They would grow up on his palace world, exhibited as a curiosity of the primitive species from the third death world. He ordered them caged in containment fields used for volatile psychic species, not because he feared humans, but because his ego demanded every creature be held beneath him, regardless of what they were. Reports were filed in galactic logs. The incident was labeled as a low-priority extraction. No retaliation was expected. Earth was far. Their diplomats were weak. Their fleet was scattered. The Vorn knew humans had grown quiet since their last conflict a generation ago, and the king interpreted that silence as surrender. A week later, the system security logs for Sector 19 began failing. Observation drones monitoring the outer rim of the Vorn territories stopped responding. Patrol routes were altered. Still, no connection was made. The king's advisors raised concerns, citing human unpredictability, but he dismissed them with disdain. Humans bark loud, but bite only when cornered, he declared. Far from Vorn space, Elias Vorn stood in silence before the open hatch of a sealed chamber buried beneath his remote farmstead. The floor was stained with dust and time, but the gear inside remained untouched. A carbon-weave armor suit folded like a waiting predator against the wall. Precision weaponry, old Earth relics from Black Budget Wars, lined magnetic clamps beside it. He opened a cryo core embedded in the far corner, revealing a long box etched with ancient mission tags burned into the metal. Operation Thornlight, Project Riftjaw, Ashfall Protocol. Elias had buried it all years ago. Burned his name from the records. Left Earth under an alias after his final mission, cracked the moon of a hostile species, and triggered a genocide by collapse. That was before he became a father, before he learned to cook, mend clothes, teach his kids how to climb. But they had been taken, and he felt no hesitation. There was no roaring emotion, no fury, just a cold, precise clarity like muscle memory. He donned the armor. It sealed with a whisper and a hiss. His eyes locked onto the old HUD, green lines flooding back across his vision. Coordinates, surveillance data, weapon diagnostics, all returning online, as if the system had been waiting for this moment. His first move wasn't violence. It was silence, a sequence of old frequency pings, ghost codes only a handful of agencies in the galaxy even remembered, echoed through abandoned relay stations. Dark AI dormant and dead satellites stirred. Contact responded. Mercenaries who thought Elias long dead, assassins who owed him favors, synthetic intelligences once guided by his hand. One by one, they confirmed the location. Royal Vorn territory, children registered as bio-exhibits, held in Level 7 containment aboard the King's Palace Station. He did not transmit demands. He did not issue threats. He simply left. An unregistered stealth vessel, long since purged from every galactic database, activated beneath the floor of his homestead. It was older than most species space programs, black as void stone and undetectable by modern sensors. As it left orbit, the Earth government detected its passage and chose silence. They knew what had been reawakened. A day later, a deep space listening station inside Vorn borders went offline. Not destroyed, just gone. No alarm, no explosion, no trace. The backup station picked up an automated distress ping 3 hours later. The message was only 3 words long, carved digitally into the code of the station's operating system. Give them back. The Vorn Dominion shrugged it off. Pirates, maybe. Glitches. The king was told of the incident, but paid little attention. He was busy preparing for a diplomatic feast and intended to show off his new acquisitions to his court. He ordered the children fitted with translation collars, though they refused to speak. They remained quiet, watching everything, saying nothing. The king's consuls mocked their defiance. "They are like mute animals," one said. "Soon they'll forget they were ever human." The next day, one of the king's fleet commanders went missing. His cruiser returned to orbit above the capital, but the bridge crew was found dead, intact, untouched. Each one collapsed in their seats. No forced entry. No sign of conflict. The ship's logs had been wiped. Every console bore a single glyph, an old Terran military sigil long thought obsolete. Surveillance showed no sign of entry or exit. By then, whispers began spreading through the black channels. Former operatives, data smugglers, old warlords, and relic tacticians began murmuring the name again. Elias Vorn, the Ashfall Protocol, the man with no planet, the one who made stars scream. The king dismissed the rumors. He broadcast a message across neutral space, calling the whispers childish myth and Earth a barely evolved predator cage. He laughed, but for the first time in years, Earth answered, not with a fleet, not with weapons, with a redacted file release, leaked anonymously to the Varn Royal Archives. A copy of Operation Thornlight, declassified for the first time. The video showed Elias on a Black Ops mission, dragging a wounded comrade through acid rain while dismembering an alien war beast with a monofilament blade. No armor, no air support, just survival. Varn analysts reviewed it in horror. The footage was authentic. Their own psychologist confirmed. Elias Vorn had been engineered by Earth not as a soldier, but as a failsafe, deployed only when negotiation, containment, and extermination had all failed. He had no official title because Earth never intended to use him twice. The king's advisors begged for the children to be returned. "A show of good faith," they pleaded. "This is not a war we can survive." But the king's pride outweighed his reason. He ordered the palace station locked down and had the children sedated. He activated planetary shields and summoned 2 elite fleets to orbit. Elias was already there. The first fleet never saw him. Their sensors blinked once, then all comms ceased. Surveillance logs later showed the ships veering off course as if following phantom orders. Each vessel re-entered atmosphere at incorrect angles. Firestorms rained down. The capital watched in horror as what appeared to be their own fleet crashed in synchronized arcs, obliterating entire sections of the defense perimeter. No warning, no declaration, just annihilation. The second fleet scrambled, but as they launched, they found their engines disabled, fuel converted into inert gas by some form of remote interference. Elias hadn't attacked them. He'd rewritten their programming before he even arrived. The Varn Dominion called for immediate containment. After the destruction of Fleet Sector Thorn and the disappearance of Elias Vorn from all tracking systems, the king issued Directive Red Spiral. Total lockdown of the central core, restriction of all outgoing communication, and activation of the Dominion's oldest war algorithms. But none of it mattered. The threat they prepared for did not arrive in the form of fleets or armies. It moved alone, unseen, ahead of them, already inside their systems. While the king screamed orders at panicked generals, his most advanced warship went dark on the edge of the core systems. No battle, no signals. Surveillance showed the vessel drifting, power offline, the crew untouched, lifeless, faces frozen in expressions of terror. The engineers who retrieved the ship discovered that the entire internal AI had been overwritten by a simple command loop. "I warned you." Fear crept through the Dominion, like a contagion. Systems began muting their public broadcasts. Civilian trade fleets rerouted away from Varn space. Non-aligned worlds began pulling ambassadors from the capital. The king's ministers still paraded bravado in council chambers, but their eyes betrayed growing dread. A single man had turned the most powerful state in the quadrant into a paranoid echo chamber, not through brute force, through psychological dismantling. The Dominion, which once believed in superiority by scale, now found itself facing something it could not see, predict, or reason with. On the third day, the king's personal data fortress was breached. A classified archive containing over 4 centuries of war data was exposed to the galaxy, not destroyed but opened, intact, decrypted, and disseminated. The files revealed a hidden truth. that Elias Vorn had not only been sanctioned by Earth's covert authority, but had been deployed into galactic conflicts deemed too dangerous for fleets. He was not a soldier. He was a countermeasure. Entire species had vanished after encounters with him, though no direct evidence had ever been found. Until now, the King's court turned to fear-driven contingency plans. They assigned assassination teams to known human operatives. Each one failed before departure. Commanders assigned to track Elias went missing within hours of their appointment. One such leader was later found alive, locked inside his own cryopod, transported across 3 systems and deposited at the gates of a Varn slave market, unconscious but unharmed. Across his chest was etched the same 3 words: "Give them back." All systems under Varn control began receiving encrypted packets. They were small, unnoticed at first, embedded within maintenance updates. They spread like ghost code, infecting weapons platforms, targeting software, communications relays. Once triggered, the effect was simple. Nothing responded. Ships could not fire. Shields could not activate. Entire planetary defense grids stood inert as the stars watched. The King refused to evacuate. His pride was his tombstone. In desperation, he authorized a revival of the Umbra Legion, an ancient order of Varn assassins forbidden by treaty for centuries. The Umbra launched silently from their hidden vault, tracking only the biometric resonance of Elias Vorn. They never returned. Only a single data drone arrived back at the capital, showing a single recording. It was black static, then a voice. "Calm. Human. You sent wolves. I sent silence." The royal palace began to fracture. Nobles staged secret evacuations. High command officers transferred wealth to off-world vaults and vanished. Still, the King persisted. He believed that dominance could be reasserted through fear, unaware that the fear was no longer his to wield. On the 6th day, the stars above the capital world dimmed. No energy surge, no weapons discharge, just darkness. Orbital satellites failed. Docked ships drifted without gravity alignment. The King stared at the sky from his throne, realizing that power had left him. No alarm sounded. No warnings. Only silence. The children, held in the deepest part of the palace vault, were gone. Guards stationed in containment chamber remembered nothing. Their weaponry remained holstered. Security logs showed no breach. But the feed, when reviewed, displayed a single moment of distortion. An image lasting less than a second, yet enough to freeze every member of the palace council when viewed. Elias standing beside the children, his hands resting on their shoulders. Unarmored, expressionless. He had been there, and then he was not. The King offered terms. Through trembling lips and shaky transmissions, he ordered a message be sent to Earth. Full reparations, release of territory, permanent retreat from neutral zones. Earth replied with no words, only the original footage of his children smiling on their homeworld. Then, below it, a list of every facility, weapon, and laboratory the Varn had used to experiment on alien species over the last 50 years. Facilities that no longer existed. The galactic core went into shock. The Dominion's collapse became visible. Pirate clans raided undefended worlds without fear. Former allies withdrew support. Diplomats who once sought Varn favor now swore loyalty to distant Terran embassies, begging to be overlooked in whatever retribution followed. Fear mutated into reverence. Whispers of Elias turned into doctrine. New recruits in military academies were taught cautionary tales, not of wars, not of invasions, of what happens when one human decides the law no longer applies. What happens when you take what belongs to them? Varn systems attempted to rally. They reached out to ancient allies, awakened defensive AI relics from forgotten wars, initiated contingency failsafes buried deep beneath planetary crusts. But the fail codes had already been rewritten. The AI obeyed a new master. Some didn't activate at all. Others simply broadcast human laughter before self-deactivation. No shots fired. No invasion. Only systemic paralysis. On the 9th day, a message echoed to the Dominion's highest security channel, routed through 30 decommissioned satellites long thought destroyed. Every command relay, every drone, every ship AI paused. All screens displayed the message. He asked nicely. You refused. Now you'll remember. The king stood alone in the throne chamber, guards dead or missing or fled, his face contorted in disbelief. He activated the final command, planetary lockdown, protocol extinction wave, a total self-defense purge designed to erase all life on the world to prevent capture. It never launched. Instead, the palace lights dimmed. A chill filled the air. The sound of footsteps echoed from nowhere. No sensors registered movement. No doors opened. But the king felt it. He turned. Nothing. He spoke. No answer. But he knew. The chamber doors opened, and the stars, far above the palace, blinked out. Elsewhere, the galaxy held its breath. News of the king's disappearance spread without confirmation. No body, no sign of departure, no digital signature of any kind. Just an empty chamber and the sound of his last breath recorded by silent walls. One by one, systems under Vorn control declared independence. Not with declarations or banners, but with a single transmission sent to all channels. The children are safe. Do not touch Earth. A new silence descended across the galactic core, heavier than fear, deeper than grief. The Vorn Dominion no longer ruled from its throne world. With the king gone, the palace abandoned, and the fleets dismantled by their own corrupted code, systems once unified by dominance became fragmented territories of denial and dread. Nothing official had been said. No announcement. No funeral. No admission. Just a blank space in the center of what had been the most powerful empire in the region. At the edge of Vorn space, scavenger ships approached the dark remains of a crippled armory station. No resistance. No life signs. They boarded, looking for salvage, but found something else. A single room left intact, untouched by decompression or decay. On the wall, a phrase scorched into steel with surgical precision. The galaxy is watching. The message spread across systems like a slow wave. Criminal cartels paused operations. Mercenary factions withdrew from contracts involving human territories. Entire corporate fleets rerouted trade routes to avoid accidental passage through Terran border sectors. Fear had matured into policy. It wasn't that humanity had declared war. They hadn't spoken at all. But now the galaxy understood that there were lines, and some of them were drawn not with treaties or star lanes, but in blood and silence. Inside the human diplomatic archive on Gaia Station, a message was filed, encoded in ancient Earth format, marked for restricted viewing. It simply read, Ashfall concluded, assets retrieved, no further intervention required. The file was archived, sealed, and never accessed again. Elias remained anonymous. Records of his presence during the incident were redacted or erased entirely. To the outside world, he was nobody. To Earth's internal intelligence branches, he was accounted for, alive, returned, dormant. None were ordered to contact him. None dared to. His children resumed their lives. The colony, though quiet, had subtly changed. Locals watched the family with newfound respect. Not because of overt power, but because something unspoken had passed among them. Every man, woman, and child had felt the shift, seen the cracks form in the distant sky, heard the whisper that traveled through coded silence. No one asked Elias about what had happened. He volunteered nothing. But sometimes when walking the trails at dusk, someone would nod and Elias would nod back, and no words were needed. In the remnants of the Dominion's outer systems, smaller powers attempted to seize control. Warlords, ex-nobles, pirate syndicates. None lasted long. Entire warbands vanished before arrival. Stations drifted into empty orbits with no survivors. Attempts to retaliate ended with internal sabotage or unexplained system failures. Someone or something was ensuring that the Dominion's corpse would not rise again. Academies across the galaxy quietly changed their training doctrines. Cadets were instructed in human behavioral patterns, not for assimilation, but avoidance. Simulation programs included new fail states, Ashfall events. Analysts began factoring in Terran psychological triggers into diplomatic protocols. Commanders were taught to monitor for any sign of human retribution, no matter how small. A broken treaty, a missing child, a silence where a response was expected. One by one, the rules changed. Across hundreds of sectors, the unofficial doctrine became law. Do not provoke humans with loss. Do not test their restraint. And above all, if one of them ever asks for something back, give it. On a barren moon in the old Vorn military corridor, a secret installation flickered to life. It had been dormant for decades, housing genetic prototypes developed for a failed campaign against early human settlers. The lights rose, activating cloning vats and AI defense cores. No command had triggered the sequence. No signal had passed. But the system activated anyway, sensing the void left by the King's fall. Before any process completed, the moon vanished from scanners. A single satellite remained, spinning quietly, its signal broken into static. One listening post caught a fragment of a phrase repeated endlessly in Terran dialect. There will be no resurrection. Elias walked with his son beside a glacial ridge, showing him how to read the night sky without instruments. His daughter rode a longboard down the colony hills, laughing with the unburdened joy of children who no longer knew fear. Their world had stabilized. No threats loomed. No warnings echoed. Yet beneath Elias's calm presence, his awareness remained sharp. He knew the galaxy never truly slept. It only paused. When a foreign diplomat arrived to tour the colony as a gesture of goodwill, he passed Elias by chance in the market. They exchanged no greeting. But the diplomat's skin sensors flared with stress patterns. He recognized the face, even if the files had been burned. He returned to his embassy without speaking and filed a confidential report labeled, "He walks among them." It wasn't read. It didn't need to be. On a planet where Vorn cultural elites once tortured intelligent species for genetic testing, their libraries now held only ruins. No data, no architecture, just fine ash and echoes. Scientists later theorized the destruction wasn't explosive. It was molecular disassembly. Every structure taken apart atom by atom. Precision beyond any known weapon. No witnesses. No evidence. A historian studying the event compiled a report titled "The Day Fear Became Flesh." It circulated briefly among academic circles before vanishing. No one claimed responsibility. The author's name was never found, but it became an underground legend, referenced only in whispers by those who knew the old truths, that among the humans walked entities shaped not by hate or hunger, but by something worse, conviction. Governments drafted quiet agreements. Terran colonies were placed off-limits to all foreign intelligence operations. The cost of espionage, it was decided, was no longer quantifiable. Spies who breached Terran systems either went dark or returned mute, with nervous systems too damaged for interrogation. The King's legacy became a cautionary tale retold to every galactic ruler. Not a tale of defiance, but of arrogance punished. A warning that some thresholds were final. That the wrong child taken, the wrong person underestimated, could end empires. Years passed. The Dominion became myth. Its territories consumed by more careful, more restrained governments. The name Elias Vorn faded from official records again, spoken only in military bunkers and deep state briefings as a hypothetical worst-case scenario. On a remote planet near the galactic edge, a new outpost tried to catalog Death World species for profit. Among the wildlife captured was a creature native to Earth. Small, unimposing, designed for analysis. When handlers attempted dissection, the lab went offline. Surveillance showed a power fluctuation, followed by absolute null signal. The rescue team found the lab empty. No bodies. No damage. Just a wall marked with 3 words. You didn't ask. The researchers who survived resigned. The company that funded the project liquidated overnight.